Well, well, well. Here we are again. It's been about a month, I think, since the announcement that I would be making 1 second of a Geometry Dash level for 100 days, and I'd be using suggestions from you guys to build each part. And I think that it's coming along really well. We've gotten around 1/5 of the way done. That means that I am on day 19 currently, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. One of my worries going into this was that each part would be too different from each other, because these are all different ideas that people have voted on each day. But luckily, people have been providing ideas that all exist in the same universe. So there may be some strange ideas, like the player in the middle of the level stopping to pet a cat and then moving on. And that has caused some people to say that this level looks like a fever dream, and I completely agree, but there's also an aspect of it that is just really fun about it. I think that right now it's all coming along very well. Recently, this project has just gone over 100 hours of work. 100 hours in 20 days of work means that the entire level is going to take probably around 500 hours to complete. In celebration of 100 hours of building, I've decided that I wanted to make a recap so far of what I've made. Kind of how music producers go through their song after they've already made it and they've kind of make a breakdown of the track. I think that's what I'm gonna do with this level. Here we are, 100 days. 100 hours and 13 minutes. Okay, so where are we? Yes, alright, so this is what I made for day 19. Let's go all the way back though. Day 1, the falling staircase. To make the staircase, I used this wood block, which I stretched out, and I set the color to a blending channel, which means that it would mask over whatever colors below it, which kind of gives it that brownish tint. I noticed when the stairs broke away that it kind of felt empty, so I added these bricks below everything so that way it kind of felt like it was breaking away from some type of structure. So here we have some hexagons. There's some different hexagons here and there. The ones that you can actually stand on are differently colored. This part was a 1.0 part. People wanted a 1.0 styled part, and I decided that just having these simple 1.0 blocks wasn't enough. So what I did to counter that was add some glow. I put the glow on an area fade trigger. Pretty simple for day 3. Day 4 was a club step monster, and I decided that I'd use the same technique as the 1.0 styled part, where I just gave it a ton of glow. And I actually really like how it turned out. Okay, let's talk about this part here. I think that the suggestion was a random ship part out of nowhere, but I wanted it to still stay on theme. This part right here, I remember the prompt being just a sudden wave part out of nowhere. So what I did is I created a giant shard out of a gradient trigger. Here are the vertexes. Let me see if I can find the gradient trigger. Here it is. Vertex mode. And I wanted the shard to cut into our reality, kind of like another dimension, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Something that I wanted the shard to do is split this block in half, so I had to use slopes to make it look natural. This part is just pretty simple. All I could really think of is just 3 clicks. It's only 1 second long, so... The prompt after this was a UFO part with blue orbs, and I made it kind of modern here using these ice spikes. That's what I call them. I don't know. This next part is pretty straightforward. It's a robot jumping on piano keys. The part after the shard felt pretty empty, so I added like a swirling background. It's kind of hard to see, but I feel like it completes the part. And then nice camera rotation here, movement of the piano into the next part. This part was ridiculous to make, and okay, first of all, this portal type thing here, that was just to make up for the fact that you're entering the clock. It's kind of like an indicator for when the next platform starts, which is this clock hand. And then it also complements this portal here. Decoration-wise, I mean, it's actually pretty simple. You've got some bricks here. We have some background blocks, which stop the bricks from looking like they're tinted light blue. Here are the clock numbers or letters, numerals, and also the hands of the clock. And then here's the layout for the clock. I added these cracks to the exterior of the clock to give it some more texture. Oh, and then of course you can't forget the glow. I brought the glow back from the 1.0 part and put it all over the clock, so that way it feels very shiny and polished. I'm not exactly sure where the particles are here, but I know that I have some smoke, and I have some swirls, which kind of gives it like there's a lot of fog or mist. I feel like it complements the cracks and the polishing of the clock. I feel like this was a smart thing to do. I have this green orb here. I set it to T2, which happens to be grayscaled by a shader trigger. Where is that? Here it is. I set the shader trigger to only affect layer T2, and I set the grayscale to be completely gray. In this part, only the green orb is on layer T2. This was all done in day 9, so I'm pretty proud of that. Let's move on to day 10. Day 10 was the player entering a castle. I wanted to make a lot of staircases here to make the castle feel a lot bigger, and I was able to make these like archways, which I'm pretty proud of because they are 3D. This entire staircase, however, is over a second long, so I used day 11's prompts as well. The poll for day 11 was tied between a cannon that shoots orbs at the player, which I thought was a really creative idea, and also a spike that falls from the ceiling, kind of like how a stalagmite may. So you have to jump on the orb to avoid the falling spike, which I thought was a fun touch. Nice transition here into the courtyard for the castle. Let's set our start position here, one sec. So this was a pretty simple suggestion, just have the player enter a courtyard. So I made some nature, I made a smoke effect using a particle trigger, and I added some rain. We'll see that rain shortly, but currently there is no rain here, it's just very windy. I used these pixel blocks to make the bushes, just a lot of like grassy type of textures on this layer. For layer 1 I made the wall, and I made the ground with the path. This orb is cool because it looks like it's a reflection in the ground. I did that by setting these blocks here on layer B2, and then the blocks behind the orb on layer B4. The orb sits on B3, so right in the middle. To counter the emptiness of the spikes, I added this shiny effect, which may or may not be the same glow as from the 1.0 part. This part, it's actually a lot simpler than it looks. We've got some camera triggers here, these rain particles which are originally invisible, and then as the creepiness intensifies it begins to rain. As you might have guessed, this is the Halloween day. This was day 13, which actually is a pretty funny coincidence because 13 is supposed to be the unlucky number, so pretty creepy. I made this pumpkin out of spheres and then also these blocks which are in the details tab. These detail objects give the pumpkin a really nice texture as well as making the lines, so this cobweb is made up of 23 lines. This took me around 30 minutes to get right. And then this is a jump indicator because you may think you just need to pass the pumpkin. I added some fade objects to make it feel a bit more foreboding, and then I added this nice little spider that drops down, but he's friendly, don't worry. What I did to make the spider look like it's swinging is I rotated the spider and the thread separately. This is where things get crazy. Where do I even begin? I don't know what is happening. Let's just begin here, because that's 1 second here. So, this part was a transition into the mines. I created wooden logs that you jump on, kind of like a mine shaft in Minecraft, especially because of these chains. What I did to make the outline curved is I used a separate object here, and then I used circles that just fill in for the empty space. What I did to give it that bounce is I used state triggers, which are actually really handy triggers. Someone suggested this and I'm really glad that they did because it cleans the entire part up a lot. Pretty much how it works is if the state is on, it activates group 110. If the state is off, it activates group 111. And the state is toggled on and off by the player. So what I did is I set a move trigger to 110 and I also set a move trigger to 111, and I did the same type of thing for each platform. The next thing that we will be looking at is day 15. Day 15 uses a cool idea, which is the player jumps and breaks blocks with a pickaxe. I made special breakable blocks that only break if you're clicking down. So for example, if I was to release, dead. The way I made this was with a simple touch trigger. And then as you can see, these particles keep spawning no matter what I do, but there is a workaround. If the particles are toggled off, then they will activate once you retoggle them. So I made a simple toggle system here for each particle. Day 16 is where chaos begins. I had made this platform on day 15, I wasn't really sure what to do with it, but what I decided to do is have the player just walk through here and onto this platform. Luckily, the idea of petting a cat works with this system where you just drop down, because if you jump up here, you won't be able to pet the cat in time. There's a little bit of an Easter egg that occurs when you can't pet the cat. Let's take a look. And if you do pet the cat, then you get this animation. Let's talk about the explosion now. Oh my, this is going to be complicated. So we have this log here. Let's select every single object in the log here. So this is probably a good amount of objects. They are all set to 107, 136, and 138. 107 is the state trigger that we set up before. 136 is just a simple movement downwards, so that way the platform looks like it's dropping down from the sky. And then 138 is the area trigger. Area move trigger is what I used. We use an edit area move trigger to define those values. But here we set up the target group 138, center group 139 is just the center of the explosion. Edit area move here. The reason this is group 140 is not because there are other blocks that are 140, it's because the area move trigger is 140, because we are editing a trigger, and that's the group that we're editing. Hopefully that made sense. I added some particle effects here to make an enormous explosion effect. And then the transition out. So we're pretty close to the present now. Day 18 is a glowy neon city. I wanted the style to stay the same, so I tried to make these neon kind of, but it kind of just ended up being a city. We've got some buildings in the background. These are made up of different layers, so this is a layer to tint it all pink. This is a layer to give it some shadows. This is the back of the building. And then these are the blocks in front, because if we were to just have these blocks, since they're a little bit opaque, these cracks would look like they're light blue. These buildings are just made up of a lot of layers. To make this, we need a background color, and then we have these blocks, which are also opaque, that's why we have a background color. And then we have these scaled up objects, which make lights in the windows. And then for atmosphere here, we have some clouds in the sky. Let's talk a little bit about this building here. Oh, that's an awesome freeze frame. So day 19 is what I just finished recording. The plan for day 19 was for the player to break into a building. I didn't want to make an entire wall break animation though, so I decided that breaking into a window would be cooler. There would be glass shards everywhere. It'd be nice. So what I did is I made spikes so you can't drop down, but you know, you may not think of jumping, so I added an indicator here. I don't even want to get into the layering problems that this part had, but there needs to be a wall in front of all of these pieces of furniture, and then there has to be a wall behind the pieces of furniture. I wanted the windows to still be a little visible, so it kind of felt like you're seeing stuff in the building that you're not supposed to see. This sofa I had so much trouble designing. I'm happy with how it turned out. This jump indicator, I don't plan on doing anything with it, and then yeah, you have to jump over this plant, as you can see. And then let's talk about this bookshelf. As you can see, I used the same objects as the platforms over here. And then all the way on layer 8, we have books. These are made out of these blocks here, which were added in 2.2, and I just scaled them, rotated them. A funny thing that you can't see from playing the level is this beautiful series that we have going. Lord of the Mana Orbs. You can't see this unless you zoom all the way in, which I think is hilarious. So yeah, and then that's all we have. That's all of the days so far. A lot of triggers, a lot of randomness, but a lot of fun. I'm currently at 9,211 objects. I have 1,063 attempts. I have 101 hours. That's a coincidence. 0 seconds. So let's do a playthrough. If you made it this far, thank you so much for being so invested in this series. It means a ton to me, and I'm really glad that you are all enjoying it. If you want to see the series develop in real time, then I'm uploading shorts every single day we do it. And if you have any ideas for the series, then you can comment them on the newest day. And if the ideas are good enough, then I run them on a poll that I make in my Discord server. If you haven't already joined that and you're interested in voting on the ideas, then make sure to do so. It's in the description and also on the top right corner. I'm really excited for what's in store. This is just the beginning and this level has a ton of potential, so I'm excited to see where it goes. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.